something in there. It's about the drugs from a scientific standpoint. They're molecules, right?
Okay.
So if you know rat poison has got something that kills the rats. Then something that same thing that kills the rats can kill a person. But there's also something that will make you kind of high.
Okay.
It's like HIV medication. It treats the virus, but it can also get you high. You see, it's not and a drug like a pill or a concoction like the word I was looking for. That would be what you call a concoction. You see. When you're mixing different things to achieve an effect, it's not just one thing that's in there that we can point to it and say, we'll typically find many, many things.
Okay.
You see, and our tests are not like so specific for a particular molecule. You get it.
Okay.
It's a class. So you'll get all of those detected positive for, say, opiates in general. So that's codeine, morphine, heroin, you see.
Okay.
We'll know that it's something in there. And then once we know that they are, then we continue to research if it's a very rare case. You're talking about a single kind of random incident. We have methods to go deeper to actually find exactly what it is, if it's important to the client and the family and everything. But we will have a reasonable idea every time. As soon as we get the sample. That's how the system, you're only as good as the system you have in place, right? So the better your system is for detecting and analyzing drugs, the more you'll be able to pick up, and that you'll know where to look once you get, even if it's something you've never bumped into.
You said something very interesting, and I want to lean into that. You said that if it's something that is important to the client or the family members for them to know, right?
Yeah.
A lot of them do want to know.
Exactly.
A lot of them do want to know what kind of drug their child, their relative, their family member is on. And I don't know why, but we do want to know. Why is that important for them to know? In the cases that you've experienced, like, why do they want to know?
Well, I mean,
what does that do for them?
As human beings, we're curious. People want to know, because drugs, for some people, he's on drugs is not a satisfactory answer. You see. They want to know, the more educated, just general education, just personal knowledge, the more knowledge one has, the more interested they are in getting to the bottom of what's affecting their child or their partner or whatever it is. So we should be able to give them as much detail as they want. Of course, there's the standard when we're reporting, they've been tested positive for this, and then the thing will have what this is. We can explain this. But if it's something that is rare and unique and more is needed, it needs a more detailed explanation, and we should be able to provide that.
Nyari, I want to hear from you from a sociological standpoint. I feel like there's more to it. There's more to why they want to know what exactly it is, because I feel like to a degree they want to make it make sense about how they came across this, like how they encountered the drug first and foremost, like who are the people they could have gotten it from, how are they affording it, things like that. Like, I know there's a reason why they want to know. Like, I don't know whether it's to class it or whether to see the level of seriousness it is, because I'd personally rather be dealing with someone who's got a weed addiction than a heroin addiction. Do you know what I mean?
What happens is when a child is misbehaving, the blame initially comes to the parents. So them knowing they want to get some sense of divert responsibility, closure, something like that, so that they feel that they are not the reason why their children are taking drugs. So knowing the source, how they got to them, will give them that closure to understand, no, you know what, as much as my child has been involved in ABC, at least it wasn't because of my fault, but maybe it's because of the type of friends that he or she has been hanging with, the exposure they're getting out there in the society. But at least it's not a parental blame. Get the sense.
Okay. I think it has to do with maybe they want to restrict the areas, because obviously, if your child likes to attend, let's say, rock and roll shows, and you find out that their drug addiction is crack cocaine, obviously no more rock shows. We're done with that. So definitely think it has something to do with that. So Mandla, we specifically said the effects on the boy child and the girl child, emphasis on child. I want to know how much more detrimental. I know it is more dangerous for the child to be on drugs than it is for an adult, and I just want you to quickly explain to us why and how it has more devastating and more long-lasting effects for a young mind to have an addiction.
Okay, well, let me put it this way. In simple terms, a child is still growing. More specifically, every body system. You know that the human being is a system of systems, right? Lungs, kidneys, heart, and as well as the brain.
They're all working together.
Now, all of these are still growing. Drugs damage bodily tissues, right? So instead of now the child is still growing, still literally cells are dividing and they're growing. But now, instead of focusing energy on growing, you're now focusing energy on repair. You see, because drugs destroy the tissues. Now you're committing energy to repair. So of course growth is going to be stunted. Growth and development are going to be stunted everywhere. You see, like if you start smoking when you're like 12 years old, right? Before your lungs are even fully developed, it's just going to be mostly scar tissue. In the adult, you're always going to be vulnerable to like emphysema and early onset lung cancer. You see, that's how maybe someone can catch lung cancer when they're 24. Even the immune system in particular, even the reproductive system, because things like drugs, like for example meth, they interfere with your libido and your sexuality. Now imagine that happening to a guy who hasn't reached full puberty yet. He can actually
stunted completely,
have impotence at 14 years old. He cannot not have a normal sex life, you see, for the rest of his life because of that damage. And that damage, because it's fixed, but it's still growing. So a structure encompasses around damaged tissues, and it will never work properly. That even surgery will not be able to fix that kind of thing. Before something is fully formed, you're already breaking it now. You see.
I see.
And there are deadlines in the body's development. It's not going to delay, especially during rapid growth, during puberty. It's not going to delay certain
That's
growth
between
processes.
What ages?
Well, depending on the system, because growth comes in spurts, right? A kid will grow, they'll have a growth spurt, and they'll grow and have a spurt. So spurts will be done by like 18.
Okay.
And then total like physical, like muscles and everything will be done by 21. But then now there's also a growth that the brain will be as mass and cells, it will be fully grown. But there's a lot of, because there's a physical age and a mental age. You don't reach your full mental maturity until you're in your late 20s to 30s.
I heard it was like 26.
You see, depending, women achieve it earlier than men, but full mental maturity, thoughts and thought patterns, ability to reason and make decisions is accomplished late 20s to early 30s.
Wow.
That's why you can have 30-year-olds, mid-30s that are still very immature, who act like children. You see.
It's because of stunted, or they're still developing, or
and
maybe they were
drugs
stunted.
directly impede that process of full mental maturity and development. So if you're now starting at 12, you're pretty much
it's a lifelong of downhill.
You will never have a chance to even see your full potential, let alone achieve it. You see.
That's crazy. So you've discussed how it manifests in the body, with the damage of the organs, stunted growth, and lifelong list of problems. But how does that manifest itself, like psychologically? What kind of things are we going to be seeing from the boy or girl child with their psyche?
Okay, I'll give you an example straight off the bat. Criminal behavior, recurring criminal behavior. You can literally become a career criminal. It's in you. You want to be a bad guy because these drugs promote things like aggression and and if when your brain is still developing, you're having aggressive thoughts, and then it's solidifies.
You're impulsive, yeah. You're not developed enough to be able to think and reason and be guided by consequence.
Yes.
What is naughtiness is now solidified into a behavior. You see, kids are naughty, they don't want to listen. Now they will be like, they will not reach it. They'll reach a stage where that naughtiness now follows them into the adults, and they become like a criminal, like not circumstances, not I am broke, I need to make a plan. Straight up violent criminal. They can be born, or at least develop very, very early, and drugs are a factor in that.
That's actually crazy. That's insane. But I know that this is not usually the path taken by the girl child. It's the criminal route. For females, it usually manifests in different ways. Nyari, do you have some examples of what we would expect to see in the psyche of the girl child's damage in their psychological way of thinking and everything?
Okay. For women, naturally women are known to be soft. Unlike men, that's why they are usually aggressive.
Career criminals.
Yes. So for women, the only way you can notice it is through their body structures.
Okay.
Yeah, their body structure development might be affected. At puberty, you expect a woman to develop hips, bums, and boobs, and all that stuff. But because of taking substances, they affect hormonal imbalances. So that affects the whole reproductive system and body structure of a person. So in terms of women, that's how you can notice. And also eating disorders, they get affected on that as well. Some might not be eating, and some might be overeating because of what? Taking substances. And that's when you can see someone who's around 17 years, but with the body of a 10-year-old, or will be overweight due to eating disorders. Yes.
That's actually so insane. But I want to look at some of the social implications. That's the word. Some of the social implications. Are they able to actually function in society? Because I know there's such a thing as what's it called? Functional alcoholic.
Yes.
I don't know how the degree of functionality at which they operate, but there's such a thing as called a functional alcoholic. Is there such an equivalent or such a term for someone who is on drugs, especially like very heavy, very serious drugs? Will they be able to be a part of society and function, and I put it in, normally?
Well, I can tell you that it comes in stages, right? This drug thing. It starts with someone being at risk and being open to drug use. It's risk, drug use, drug abuse, then addiction.
One more time?
There is...
Make sure you're not making this up. There's risk.
There's risk. Then there's drug use. Then there's drug abuse. Then there's drug addiction.
Okay,
That's
I need us to break down this.
Anyone who is using drugs falls somewhere there.
What does risk entail? Just give us some quick characteristic. Risk.
Curiosity.
Okay.
Peer pressure.
Okay.
Family histories.
Oh.
And social environment.
Okay.
You see, someone who is in a place, growing up in a place where drugs are completely prohibited, like the Middle East, where it's punishable by death in some cases.
So there's no risk.
So in the home, no one is doing drugs. Out in the streets, to do drugs, you really have to go underground into the very dark.
You have to be actively seeking.
Right. So those people are not at risk. However, someone who grows up in Mbare, for example, sees it all around them. They probably have a brother in the house or a father, whatever, who's using. There's access, and it's almost like it's a culture there. You see. So they will be at high risk of use. Not using will be very difficult for them. They will use it. Now they're now using.
Okay.
And then that's where some people, when you say functional, There's no such thing as
they're
a
in use.
functional alcoholic. Alcoholic implies addiction.
Oh, so they're already too far gone.
Not too far gone. There's nothing like too far gone. Too far gone is death.
Oh.
After addiction, because we say addiction is an illness, and illnesses lead to death.
Okay.
So you can always come back.
Okay.
There's always hope.
There's always hope.
Right.
Okay. So
Some
we're
people
on
can.
use.
So recreational use.
Okay.
Going out. I mean, if we're talking about seriously about drugs, alcohol is a drug. Caffeine, nicotine, even social media can be a drug, right? A drug is something that causes obsessive, repetitive preoccupation with something that at the expense of other things. So a teenage girl on her phone who's on TikTok, who's on social media all day, is addicted to social media. It's a drug for her. The outcomes now, that's a whole separate topic, I think, but they're there. They're negative outcomes.
So essentially something that affects your quality of life.
Right.
Okay.
What you spend most of, like if you're addicted, you're now only on that thing. You see. So some people, like, they go out, they only drink when they go out here and there, or if they drink, maybe it's a glass of wine a night and that's it.
So that's
use. That's responsible use.
Okay.
And it's responsible because it'll be legal. Even there are people who use drugs, illegal drugs. Because I mean, adults have a choice. You can make the choice. Okay, I want to use this substance. If you get caught by the law, you face the consequences. But if it's legal, like alcohol or tobacco, you've made a choice to use, and you have a right to use because it's a legal product that's marketed and sold. And for most people, that's where it stops. Recreation.
Okay.
But then now, when you start, the more you use it, the more frequent the use. And
then we move
the
on
extent
to
now we
abuse.
go abuse. You're drinking too much. You're abusing it. You see, you're getting high. You're smoking too. You're abusing it. You see, you're not yet addicted. You've now formed
What's the fine line?
Okay, it's about, because addiction, once you're now addicted, you cannot now live without it. If we see what happens when we take it away.
It's now controlling.
If it's a bad habit, it will cause just inconvenience to you.
Okay.
You see, you're used to it, and you still both have an internal justification deep down that both will just
sleep.
those will
It
exactly.
does this. It does
But
that.
the addict is now dependent, psychologically, emotionally, and physically.
Oof.
Their body chemistry, their way of life, it
relies on the
like
substance.
like the artists, like the rappers, people who even make a living out of drug culture. You see, for them, it's their life. Taking drugs away is literally taking it's like taking your career away. Something like that. And they cannot now function. Like if you take them away, it's going to kind of...
They collapse.
You see.
Their whole world just comes apart.
They're not just mad about being controlled, and they're just frustrated because they want their things. Those people can literally... It's very hard to treat such people because they cannot really see a problem. Or they don't understand problem in the sense that they're saying, okay, you don't like it, guys. Fine, I get it. You guys hate drugs.
Is that one of the things that leads to the eventual social isolation?
Yes. They will withdraw from loved ones and family and go only mix around with people in that same culture who are as far gone as them. They're literally people who come, they meet up, they bath, they get ready to go and hang out.
Drugs.
Just, who's got what today, and you see, it becomes a way of life. Those are addicts.
So, to answer the question that I forgot that I asked,
they are not capable of functioning normally in society.
If they have functioned, it's a society they have created themselves.
Oh, the own little world that you just described.
They cannot go to work like we do. They cannot, be of service to their community. They're not valuable members of society. You see, they cannot have normal, healthy relationships.
I
Things
was about to
you and
say,
I would say.
family dynamics.
You see, they cannot go to school. They're a nuisance. Because they'll come out when they don't have the money to support their habits. They'll come and they'll commit crimes because they don't have anything of value to give in exchange for money to buy drugs. That's what an addict looks like. And that now, it's a long, long road, and it's unlucky in terms of recovery.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that. Is it easier to treat an adult or a child? Like, do you guys do it differently based on the fact that it is a child or that is an adult, or do you guys just still follow the same processes when it comes to the rehabilitation process now?
Well, I'm sure as Madam Neri can tell you why we don't really get children coming into rehab. Because I assume you're talking about people that are under 18.
Under 18, yes.
Because I don't know, at that age, there's so much control that parents have over their children. They can literally use force and say, shut up and stop it. And, lock them in and not so that they...
That's not practical though. They still need to go to school. You don't
Yes.
know that they're going directly straight to school and back home. What if they've got extracurricular activities? You got sport. The way my parents were so strict, guys, I'm an excellent liar. I will if I want something, I will find a way to make it happen. I was doing everything as well. And I know they're never available to come and watch the contests, the plays, the shows, So I could be doing all of that, but it's dagami, so it's happening on the side. So that's not practical. So I don't understand why you don't get more children.
Well, I guess you're talking about socio-economic things, because if at home, if there's poverty, maybe there's no money for school, so they're out there in the streets, and then even if they do get addicted, the parents won't even really know because there's no school, and at home if there's no money, there's no entertainment. They're out there running around with their peers doing these things. By the time they're not close in, and they sleep wherever they want and stuff like that. So now to get them into rehab is difficult. Not that they're not there. Oh, they're there, they're worse. But I hope you get what I'm saying. It's harder to develop a problem also if you are from a low socioeconomic level, because drugs require money.
That's so true.
You see,
drugs are expensive.
You see, and then at the same time, once they're addicted, rehab also needs money.
Yeah.
So if the parents don't have the money, they cannot put them into rehab. It's so sad.
But so it's like a very vicious cycle.
Exactly.
Sad and vicious cycle. Yeah, I want to hear from you. What some of the implications are with regards to like increased risk of exploitation with children that are using drugs. Do you think that maybe, because I'm still trying to justify it in my head how children get involved in the first place, like it's just so mind-blowing to me. Do you think that the exploiters maybe could be a reason behind them being drug users or drug addicts in the first place, so that they're easier to exploit? Because I noticed that there is a connection, there's some similarity, but if we were plotting a graph, it would be moving in tandem with exploitation and drug use.
Okay. So firstly, children learn through socialization.
Yes.
Like what Mandla explained, that there are some risk environments that naturally lead for children to get involved in taking drugs. So imagine having a child who has a father or a mother that is abusing drugs. Automatically that child might become an addict, or say, I would never take any drugs after seeing the behavior of the parents.
Okay, so perhaps it's in two extremes.
Yes, it's in two extremes. Some learn from that, or some copy from that behavior.
Okay.
Yes. And also, when it comes to children nowadays, like you were talking about how can children take drugs? Imagine dealing with teenagers, adolescents. We know they are difficult. So imagine dealing with a teenager that is taking substances. They develop that behavior, that character, nothing can stop me.
That invincibility complex.
Exactly. And they are easily manipulated, because when you're an addict now, you do anything to get
like
the
Amanda
drug.
said, they don't have the funds to buy the drugs.
Yes,
so
they
now
don't. They get involved in risky behaviors, stealing at that young ages. So other people that are on drugs might actually take advantage of that and send the children to do those type of crimes. Because you know, when you're a child getting arrested, you are an adolescent, so what you have to face is juvie. So they might take advantage of those children, then send them to perform crimes so that they can feed into the addiction. Yes. So it's really difficult when it comes to children. They are easily exploited. So it's very important that we have to prevent.
That was the next point: prevention and intervention. What does it look like when children are involved? And please, we've already spoken about the example of locking them up. I don't think that's I don't know. Sometimes it might work, and others I don't. Yeah, like I don't think that is a workable solution, because you as the parent, number one, you don't even know for sure that it's drugs. You're just seeing the manifestations. You're seeing your child behaving badly or differently or whatever it is. So you're just prohibiting a whole lot of behaviors or situations that you assume is what's happening, right? But what is the most effective way? How can parents for certain identify that it's giving drugs now? It's no longer just bad behavior or mischievous or we're growing and developing. No, this looks like a drug problem. And what is the very first thing that they should do once they've identified that?
Okay, as parents, you have to know the type of children you have. You need to have time to be with your children.
To spend time with them, yeah?
Yes, if you don't, you won't be able to notice any differences in behavior. So that you can tell that my child might be taking drugs. That's why you realize most of cases, parents realize when it's now extreme, when they're now hallucinating, they are now going crazy. You see, it's because you had missed that point of noticing changes in behavior. So it's very important to know how your child behaves. And then the other way of you being safe, for you to be very certain, is through test. Because you might think that he or she is using drugs. When you're not sure, they use that against you. So as long as you conduct test, you'll be able to pick up, you know, my child is now on crystal meth, on cocaine, on marijuana. Yes.
Anything from you, Manda?
Yes, I mean, when it comes to, because I mean, if it's a child, then the home environment is very important, because children live with their parents, right? So, as Nari said, it's very much up to the parents to, you know, create a stable environment, to do their part to prevent. I would also say, I mean, I'm sure she can go deep into many sociological factors, maybe peers, which friends the child is, and, you know, school and all of that. But from a scientific standpoint, of course, there is the testing. The testing will confirm and will, because we need to know what they are on if we're going to help them going forward. You know. So after that, now the rehab as a center does not have the power in prevention. Ours is treatment. So prevention is now more. There's nothing really. We cannot come with helicopters spraying, you know, some compounds that are gonna vaccinate all the children against drug use. You see? So we get them when a problem is already established itself. So ours is for treatment and rehabilitation and prevention from relapse, of course. Because once they're in our care, we cannot put them back without giving them the necessary tools to avoid. So it's they come, they have a problem, we treat the problem, and we implement safeguards so that they don't go back into it. And there's little, I mean, science can identify and tell you about and explain to you why the person is behaving like this, what are they seeing when they're hallucinating, and all that sort of thing. But the process of rehabilitation and all of that stuff is more psychosocial, psychotherapy, because you can't, because the mistake that like certain maybe institutions and psychiatrists and other professions have tried to make is to use drugs to treat drug problem. You can't and you shouldn't do that, because you're creating secondary addictions.
No problem, yeah.
You're trivializing the drug addiction to a little, a medical little problem. And you're enabling the user to say, oh, I'm sick, but there are these pills, and because I'm sick, I need to take this or else I'll get into drugs. When, no, as I said, that you're at risk, you choose to use, and then that repetitive use falls. So it's a behavior, it's less of a clinical, organic, something is wrong with you that, science and medicine can fix. It's so
you need a holistic approach.
Exactly.
Essentially.
When someone is dying, like literally dying because of their drug use, that's when we can use medication.
Okay.
That's science, but the rest is more Nyari sort of. That's why she's the head. You see, her part, the social, the psychological, that's the most important part in both prevention and in recovery and treatment.
Okay.
Monitoring, making sure the person isn't back on them secretly. Yeah.
Okay.
Testing, monitoring, and necessary treatments that specifically need compounds that, because if you're treating drugs of abuse, you have to use clinically approved drugs, but that are also potentially addictive and also have their own
you don't want that.
side effects. You see,
It's like 5 steps back.
You see.
So Nyari, you wanted to say something. You said and.
Okay, what I wanted to mention was on prevention. At this stage that we're in when it comes to substance use, we have to realize that caregivers play a pivotal role. Because at this point, prevention is what we have to stick on. So for you to prevent that, you have to know what your children are up to. When you give them pocket money, you have to know what they're using that money for. When they are going out to hang out with their friends or their peers, you should be able to know what they are up to, the type of friends they are hanging out with. And from caregivers, we go to the community as a whole. We have to go back to that spirit of Ubuntu.
Say something.
Exactly. Because not just saying kuti ahazi mwana wangu, because the next thing, yours is going to be
influence yours.
Exactly. So we really need to bring that back, the spirit of Ubuntu, and normalize talking about those issues of substance use. Because at least if you educate them, they will get involved while they have solid information about what they're taking, what's out there. Because when you're going out in parties, nowadays, in the clubs, they don't even check their IDs. I don't think they do that anymore. You see? So what it means is they get to the clubs, that's an adolescent, right? They've never heard of cocaine, what it looks like, and then someone just tells them, but you know what, try this. Or
get some sherbets.
Exactly. And what's that pill? That's red pill.
Is it
ecstasy?
Morning, yes.
Yeah, you don't even know what that is and how it's going to affect you.
You're gonna get a hangover tomorrow, so you need to take this.
Exactly.
Right.
See, and things like crystal meth, that is highly addictive. You take it once, chances of getting addicted are high from the first dosage. So
awareness really is important.
Yes.
And in awareness, now I'd almost forgotten something. Information and education. It will be the job of science to tell people what it is and because where the source of the drugs is also a very big issue. Many of the times people having these bizarre effects and changes to like their skin and stuff is because of cutting compounds that are present with the drugs. You see, these drugs, they're illegal, they're illicit. They're not like, Panadol that have a big government and corporations behind the scientists that make these things. These drugs are made like in these labs
the basements.
by normal people that have learned very little science. They have formulas, so then they don't know things about purity, purification, and extraction and lab safety. You see, exactly.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of like what can I call them? There's a lot of like impurities exactly that come along with. You're seeking, when you say crystal meth, you're seeking a specific molecule, but in there, maybe 68% of what you're holding is actually that. There's a whole bunch of other things that are useless in your goal to get high.
And you don't even know what methods used to extract that. You might not even have
they
the
don't know how
tools.
to purify it further.
Exactly.
So they will take they'll get the high along with all of those things that will build up in their system, and you see.
No, education and awareness is definitely key. I would like to thank my sources of education for all the awareness that they gave me, because to this day, even if it is a cough medicine, even if it's something for flu, I love that little piece of paper. You know, that little piece of paper with the contraindications, mechanism of actions, side effects, symptoms, and whatnot. There was one that I bought that didn't come with that. I was like, excuse me, where's the little paper that comes with the medication? So it's very important that you are aware and you know what it is that you're putting into your body always, not just with drugs. Just normalize it just day to day, so that if by some unfortunate case of events you go down that path, you are at least aware of the consequences. Guys, we're out of time. Thank you so much. Thank you so much again for your wealth of knowledge and for sharing that with us. I hope there's someone that's listening out there that learned a lot. Nyari, I feel like this is not the last time I'm seeing you. Please continue to be available. Mandla, we're next week. I'll see you next